Hey everyone, my name is Jo, and I am excited today to add a couple of my editing videos and share them with you all. And I classify myself as a non-traditional fine art lifestyle photographer. I am always into doing something creative with my work, either through shooting or either through editing. And I'm excited to share a couple of tips and some editing techniques and just share them with all of you. So thank you for being here. Okay. So firstly, for today, I wanted to go ahead and show how I edit a black and white image. To me, firstly, there are some images that I envision to seeing them in black and white already while I am shooting. And to me, capturing emotion is one of them. So when I have emotion that I wanted to show in my photographs, I always think in terms of black and white, just because it takes away any distractions or from anything else that may be taking away from the actual emotion that's being expressed in the image, and it puts the focus back on your subjects, on the story, which is the embrace, and you know, the embrace and the connection and the closeness over here. So let me go ahead and show you how I would edit this. So firstly, what I would do is I am just going to click on the black and white over here to get started. But as you can see, it's very plain. It lacks contrast. It lacks depth. It just looks very flat rather. So we want to add some depth to it. And what I'm going to do is I am going to increase the color temperature here just a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to reduce the exposure. I'm going to increase the contrast. You don't want it to be too contrasty either. At least for me in my work, I love contrast, but I don't want something like that too. So I'm going to keep it somewhere in the middle because I do love contrast in my work. And be careful with how much highlights you want to reduce, because you want it to still have some glow. I'm going to reduce my shadows in there just a little bit, and I'm going to reduce my whites. I'm going to increase the blacks in here. Just remember that the basic panel is really powerful in terms of your editing. Add some texture. I'm going to add a little bit of clarity. Okay, so that all looks good. We'll come back to tone curve just a little bit. I am going to change a little bit of the colors in my black and white over here. Just remember that even though your black and white image is more in monochrome and shades and variations of monochrome, there is still colors that are present in the image, which would make a difference when you actually change the sliders. For example, he was wearing a blue shirt. So if I change the blue, if you notice, the blue is actually all changing as well. So just keep in mind of that. And then the orange, for example, is going to affect the skin tone. So you don't want to do something like this or something like this either. So so just keep in mind when you think about black and white that there are colors present in the image, and it's converting them into a monochrome range, and changing rather the tonal range of those colors in monochrome, if that makes sense. Okay, so I am going to increase the orange just a little bit, and I'm going to play around with the yellows. I'm going to reduce the green in here a little bit. Blue, I am going to keep it as it is. I don't think there's any purple in the image, so that doesn't matter. Okay, so that's good enough for me. The next, I am going to go and mess with the tone curve. With the tone curve, remember this is the shadow zone. this is the highlights, and this is the midtones. I always just insert 3 points in here. Actually, let me go and add a 3rd point right there. So there's a total of actually 5 points, although I insert 3 points. I am going to reduce the highlights a little bit, and I'm going to bring the midtones down a little bit too. I'm going to play with this slider right here, which is going to give me the contrast that I like. So it's starting to look how I would typically edit my black and white images. I'm going to increase the this point here a little bit. So the more higher up you increase it to, that becomes more matte, and the more lower you bring it, it becomes more contrasty. But I like to add a little bit of a matte effect in my images. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so that's starting to look good. Increase just that a little bit. Okay. So, and I am possibly going to bring that down. Okay, so that's looking good. The next thing I am going to do is, well, before I do that, I'm just going to zoom into her face. Okay, so everything looks good here. I am going to add a little bit of luminance in. Then add some grain in, because I do like to see a little bit of grain in my photos, especially in black and white. I'm going to increase the contrast here a little bit, and then I am going to add a little bit of exposure just on her face. Okay. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so I really like how it's looking already. I'm just going to increase the contrast a little more. And then I do like to have just some layering in my photos. So I was holding her hair in here to get that feeling of depth. So I am going to take this to Photoshop. So I just basically, all I did is just edit in Photoshop. And what I'm going to do is see if I can just get rid of my hand this way. Content aware and fill. Okay, so it is working pretty good. And then I'm just going to clone a little bit of her hair back in. Okay, so that works great. I'm going to go save. And when I hit save, it just takes me back to Lightroom. And then I get back to Lightroom, and I love this edit. So it's got, I can see their skin beautifully. I just like to see the texture as well. So I'm just going to add a little bit of texture in here. And then I don't mind just cropping the image just a little bit more. And that's it. So I really love how the textures are shown, and how the edit just brings out the emotion. And as soon as you look at the photo, you're just drawn straight to the connection and the embrace. So any questions, just feel free to DM me. Thank you.